this Webflow tutorial, I'll teach you how to build a basic custom cursor. So let's take a look at some example websites. In Figma.com, you can see we actually have this custom cursor of this arrow thing majiggy right here. And in this secondary example website, utsesports.com.au/squad game, we have these three symbols following the cursor. So this is pretty interesting. And you can see that the black cursor is the default cursor. Then finally, in this example website, dereksu.com.au, you can see Derek has decided to use this dot where it follows the cursor in a very nice, seamless way. And whenever the cursor is put over a button, that dot then expands into a bigger dot with a lighter gradient. So this is very, very common in websites. And by following this tutorial, you'll be able to create any cursor that you would like. And hopefully, if you understand the premise, you can do much, much more. So let's get straight into it, jumping into Webflow. All right, guys, I just have a Webflow project right here. I'm going to go ahead and pin my navigator so you can see what's going on. And you have your website. This is just a template, so this is just a dummy website. But essentially, if you hit a Z, you can see that all your layers are on the left-hand side. Hopefully, you're following some sort of structure. Hopefully, I really hope if you're taking Webflow development seriously, you don't have random names or you don't have any like div block 7, div block 8 type situation going on. That's just a side tangent. But regardless, let's go ahead and add a div underneath the body. So the body is the master div block. We can go ahead and add a div. I'm just hitting Command E and then typing in div. That's how I do it so fast. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag this div just below the body. And I'm going to give it a class of cursor-wrapper. Then I'm going to change the position from static to fixed. And I'm going to go ahead and hit this button right here, which will take up full screen. And on top of this, I'm going to give it a z-index of something very, very high. So the higher the z-index, it means it will appear in front. So if I put 2000 as a z-index, this will appear in front of every single item with 2000 and below. So just keep that in mind. And I'll just give an example of what this actually does. So if I just change the background color, it just shows what I'm actually doing. You can see I have a black because I changed to black. And maybe I'll reduce the opacity to 61% or 60%. And if I scroll down, you can see this cursor wrapper is having this overlay effect because it is positioned fixed. So it's not going anywhere. And it's taking 100% of the full screen. And just to be safe, let's go ahead and put a width of 100% and a height of 100%. So the width and a height of 100% is actually pulling in from the parent, which is body, and body is the master div. It's essentially the entire screen. And by putting z-index 2000, we're putting everything in front. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the background color because it was just to show you what I'm actually doing. Inside this cursor wrapper, I'm going to go ahead and add another div block, and I'm just going to give this a class of cursor. And this is where you can do whatever you want with the cursor, but if you just follow along, you can perhaps do it later on. So for example, I'm just going to put a dot because a dot is a very, very simple cursor to understand. But just keep in mind, you can change this dot to an image, you can change it to a GIF file or a GIF file. It doesn't have to be a dot. You can even put an image of a cat, you know what I mean? So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a cursor, a width and a height. I'm just going to put 2 rems. And I'm going to give the height of 2 rems. And I'm going to go ahead and put this color to be red. So you can see it's on the top left of the screen. The reason why it's on the top left is because we haven't defined the position. So if we select the parent container, cursor-wrapper, we can go ahead and put flex, and we can flex this to the center of the screen. And if I scroll down, you can see the cursor is always in the middle, which is exactly what we want. Hitting back on cursor with a 2 width, 2 height, I'm going to go ahead and just round it off so it's a circle by giving it a 50 viewport width radius. And you can see that is that. I'm going to go ahead and actually just make this a bit bigger so you guys can follow along a lot easier. So I'm going to overkill it and put 5 rems and 5 rems. And that's it. We've essentially created a cursor wrapper and we've created a cursor inside. Now what we need to do is animate it. So if we hit the body right here, we can go ahead and hit interactions on the right hand side. Where it says page trigger, we can go ahead and hit plus, and we can go ahead a new animation called mouse move in viewport. This is the animation interaction we're going to be using. Then where it says action, we can go ahead and hit play mouse animation. and we can go ahead and hit a new animation by clicking this plus button, and we can go ahead and give it a name of custom cursor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select the cursor div right here, and in mouse X, this is the horizontal axis, and mouse Y is the up and down axis. So with the cursor selected, in the 0% of the X axis, I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to go ahead and hit move. And right now it's selected the div, but I actually want to affect right here to be the class. So I just want to affect everything. Then where it says move, in this X axis, I'm going to go ahead and give it a -50 viewport width, which is taking all the way on the left-hand side of the screen, as you can see. This will be explained very, very clearly once I give you an example of what this actually does. But again, this whole point of my videos is just to follow along and just understand what I'm doing. Like, instead of me telling you what to do, just play around with it and just understand, why did I put -50 viewport width? You know, maybe in the future you can change it to -45 viewport width and understand what that does instead of -50. So with 100%, we're gonna go ahead and put the x-axis to 50 viewport width. You can see that's pushing it to the far right of the screen. And in the y-axis, still with the cursor selected, the cursor div block, I'm going to hit move, but this time I'm going to change the y-axis right here to -50 viewport height. So VH is viewport height. You can see the cursor is now, taking half of the screen at the top. Then at the very bottom right here, 100%, I'm going to change the effect to class because I want everything to change the class. Then in the Y, I'm going to go ahead and put 50 viewport height. So viewport height is automatically the height of the screen, because if you look at this website on a very small screen or a very large monitor, it doesn't matter. Once that's done, you can go ahead and where it says live preview is off, you can go ahead and toggle this on, and you can see in the canvas, it's directly following your mouse. So how cool is that, guys? That is the custom cursor. That's essentially what we're doing. Play around with the numbers. You can even play around with the easing right here. So you can actually select all of them, and you can hit the linear easing and change it up, just play around with it. But I'm just gonna go hit save. And then from here, where it says smoothing right here, you can go ahead in your own time, change the X and Y smoothing if you would like, but I'm just gonna change the master smoothing, and you'll notice the difference. So if I just leave it as 50%, you can see it's almost instant. It's instantly following my mouse. If that's what you want, that's cool. But I kind of want it to be like a very smooth, like almost like laggy delay effect. So I can change the smoothing to, let's say, for example, 82%. And now if I play it, you can see that the mouse isn't instantly following, but it has this like very, very short delay. And if I go ahead and change this to 100%, it even smooths it out even more. So you can see it's like really slow. So if I put my mouse here, it takes a while. So you can go ahead and play around with the numbers. I'm gonna go ahead and just change this back to 82%. Okay, so once that's done, we can go ahead and preview the site. You can see everything is now working pretty cool on the designer view, not the actual live site. And what I now want to do is I want to make some sort of like interaction. So for example, if this mouse goes over place an order, I want this cursor to get bigger. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and select the button. So you'll notice that you can't actually select the button because this specific cursor wrapper is fixed, taking 100% of the screen, and it has a Z index of 2000. So that's something you'll notice. You can't click anything because this is on top of everything. So we actually need to put a custom code, and let's go ahead and do that. So in the cursor wrapper or wherever you want to put your custom code, you can go ahead and add a code embed. Then I'm going to go ahead and just open it with style. I'm going to close it with style. And then inside style, I'm going to target the class cursor-wrapper, because that's what we have right here, cursor wrapper. Make sure everything is spelled correctly, like so. Then I'm going to open and close the bracket, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to pointer-events ... none, and then close the script. So this is very, very typical. A style tag is just opening and closing of the code. Cursor wrapper is just the name of the class that we've given it, cursor-wrapper. And then opening and closing the curly brackets is just what defines this specific class. And then this is just saying pointer events none. That's all. Now hit save and close. And you'll notice, because we added that code, it's no longer treating that box, that really big box, as something that's on top. It's just putting as like the cursor is nothing, you know? So I'll give you an example. For example, if we're on Figma right now, you can see that this mouse right here, everything's working cool. And if I go over this button right here, it's changing the cursor to this pointer. If I highlight text, it's changing the cursor to this text. But because we had that wrapper at the very top, we can't select anything. So we pretty much made it invisible in a way, in an analogy. So now that's done, we can select the button right here and go and hit interactions right here. We can hit plus. And now what we can do is we can say when the mouse hovers over this button, we can go ahead and on hover, we can start a new animation, hit plus, and I'm just going to give it a name called cursor in. And now what we can do is we can select the cursor right here, we can go and hit plus, and we can change it to whatever you want. I'm just going to make the dot even bigger and just slightly less opacity. So I can either use scale, I can either use size. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and hit size, and then in this width and height, I'm going to go ahead and change this to, let's say, 10 rems. 10 rems. And I'm also going to change the background color right here, or opacity, to, let's say, 20 or 18% right here. And then I can also give this a duration of, let's say, 0.3 second transition. And I can just change the easing to, let's say, outquart, hit save. And now if I just preview it, you can see the mouse is working. And if I hover over that button, which I just created an animation for, it now has that really nice effect. And you can tell if I put my mouse over it, it doesn't do anything. That's because we didn't put a hover out effect. So let's go ahead and do that now. So with this selected, just at the bottom, you can see on hover out, we can hit start animation. We can actually just duplicate the cursor in that we just created, go back in that one, and then just rename it to cursor out. Then in size, we can bring this back to the original size, which I forgot already. I think it was 5 rems, 5 rems. And then the height to 5 rems, and then the opacity back to 100%. Now if I hit save, and I go ahead and just preview the site, you can see that it has that nice effect, that transition right here, and hovering it out, it goes back to that circle, just like so. And that's the basic premise. So we can go ahead and publish the site just to really see what it looks like. I'm previewing the site. If I put my mouse over something, it has that really nice effect. You can see it's putting the cursor higher and lower. And there's other things we can do. For example, if you just don't want the cursor at all, this black cursor right here, what you can do is you can go into the body right here. You can go and hit style. You can hit all body. And you can go ahead and change the cursor from auto to none. And that way, if you preview it, that literally is your cursor. Again, I don't recommend this, but if you have a really specific design, you can do that where there is no cursor. Cool, so I'm just gonna go back to the body and I'm just gonna remove that cursor none because I do want the cursor to be visible just for user experience, and people are used to having a cursor. So that's that. And you'll notice that if we go into tablet right here, there's something we need to pay attention to, is that this can't appear on tablet. Like hypothetically, there's no such thing as cursor on a tablet, like tablet device or a mobile device. So what we can do in this case is we can go into the cursor wrapper and we can go ahead and just change the display from flex to none, and that would essentially get rid of the entire cursor, and no harm, no foul. And that's essentially it. That's the main premise. Just make sure if you're gonna add this to a different page, what you can do is you can go ahead and where you have the cursor wrapper, I have the cursor as well as the custom code that I've written right here. And I can go ahead and change this into a component, and I can give it a class or a name of custom cursor. And then I can go ahead and just use this component in different pages. Let's say, for example, I'll go into the company page. You're gonna have to re-add that element in. So I can go ahead and just add that custom cursor, but you'll notice that it actually doesn't work. That's because you're gonna make sure to go to the body, hit interactions, hit page trigger, hit while mouse move in viewport, hit start animation, and then go ahead and hit the custom cursor and make sure you change the smoothing back to 82% or whatever you had it. And there is your cursor, and Bob is your uncle. So I hope you guys found this video very, very helpful. Again, this is just a basic cursor. Feel free to play around with it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment, but have a play around with it. And any questions that you might have, besides it not working, which I doubt it because I literally walk step by step. Let's say, for example, you want to change this cursor to something else, or let's just say you're fed up with, copying and pasting this page trigger and manually adding this script back in. Challenge yourself to fix it through custom code. So I encourage everyone just to play around with everything. And for example, in this squad game website, you can see I have 3 custom cursors, this X and this shape right here. How is this done? Instead of me telling you guys, see if you can play around with it and figure out how it's done. And if you can't, then I'll be willing to help you if I have the time. So thanks again for watching. Check out my YouTube channel for more free videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace be with you.